Hi, I'm Coach Neill,
I'm Coach Katie.
and we're going to talk about protein today. This is our second week of our nutrition focus for the fall, and each week we're going to talk about a different subject in the realm of body awareness and strength conditioning and how to take care of your body nutritionally, along with a couple other subjects coming later on. Last week we talked about carbohydrates and how that fuels your body for activity and how important that is, and this week we're going to be talking about protein. So today we want to talk about protein, what it is, what your sources of protein are, how it affects your body, and why it's really, really important as an athlete to get adequate protein. Protein serves as the building blocks for all of the tissues in your body. So your muscle systems, your ligaments, your tendons, everything your body builds, it needs what are called essential amino acids. And these come from protein sources. Protein is one of our three macronutrients out of carbohydrates, protein, and fats. And for the athlete, if you want to have a long career, if you want to build muscle, if you want to take care of your body post-workout, protein is absolutely essential. And this is pretty common knowledge. Most people know they need protein, but I think there's some confusion on how much, on timing, and what proper sources of protein are. So we're going to go over some of those things today. The first thing we want to talk about is what are our best sources of protein? Where do you get protein and how much is appropriate for an athlete? Well, your most common sources of protein are going to be your meat products, your chicken, your steak, your pork, your fish. All those are great sources of protein. Your dairy and your eggs. Those are all of our complete proteins. Now, it's really important when you're talking about protein to know the difference in a complete protein and an incomplete protein, because your body uses those in different ways. And this is especially true for vegetarians. You can get protein from plants, and you can get all of your essential amino acids from plants, but you can't get them from all in one place from a plant. Whereas if I eat an egg or I eat a piece of chicken, I'm getting the complete protein sources my body needs. I get the entire protein spectrum, complete protein is what we're calling that. If I go eat beans, it's a protein source, but it's an incomplete protein source. It's missing some of my essential amino acids. So if you are a vegetarian or a vegan, and you know that as an athlete you absolutely have to get your protein levels to take care of your body, you need to be researching, how do I put together different vegetable sources to make up complete protein so that my body is getting what it needs. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is how much protein do I need per day? There's a lot of confusion out there on this, and the fact is, as an athlete, you need way more protein than a sedentary individual. The recommendations range depending on the dietitian you talk to, anywhere from 1.4 to 2.2 kilograms or 1.4 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. Now, we're in America, we don't use kilograms, so that equals about 0.6 grams all the way up to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if I'm a 200-pound male, I can get all the way up to 200 grams of protein in a day, and it's going to continue to benefit my body. Now, there's not a lot of danger in going over that. And if you're getting lean proteins in, it's actually a pretty safe way to cut out some of the more inappropriate nutrients we're getting. So if you're trying to stay a little bit lower on the fats or the simple carbs like sugar, you can fill a little bit more protein in your diet and you're going to be okay. I'm not saying as an athlete you need to go to a keto diet or anything like that, but when in doubt, it's probably a little bit safer to overdo the protein levels than to underdo it, especially when you're in a really intense training environment.
Okay, so I think sometimes, especially as female athletes, we get that stigma of, I don't want to get big and I don't want to get bulky and I don't want to eat those proteins like the boys do. And that couldn't be further from the truth, because I know all you girls love great hair, great nails, and great skin, which comes from proteins as well. And so you and me and us as girls, like, we can't eat enough protein to make those crazy detrimental effects unless you want to be a bodybuilder or something like that. That's a whole nother realm for a whole nother video, a different day. So as female athletes, it's so important, especially just for our systems, for iron deficiencies, all of those things, all the cellular makeup of stuff, the proteins help with that. And so we want to make sure that we're getting enough in our daily diet to make the gains that you want to as an athlete, and to perform and to stay lean, or to build some muscle or help with quickness or whatever it is. Protein is essential to the female diet, and it would be very hard for us to eat a gram per pound of body weight of protein. Did I say that right?
1 gram of protein per pound of body weight.
Yeah.
And even if you did, that's not going to do anything detrimental to you.
Right.
And there's something, so when you look at our macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fat, each macronutrient has a set number of calories per gram. Mm-hmm. Proteins and carbs have 4 calories per gram. Fats have 9. So if you're looking at a 2,000 calorie diet, 2,000 calorie diet per day, if you're a 110 pound girl and you take in 110 grams of protein, that's 400 calories approximately, more like 440.
Which is really not that much in that grand scheme of things.
That's not even a quarter of, or that's about a quarter of what you're taking in per day. And that's really, when you look at a appropriate nutrition plate, you want to have about 2/3 carbs, a quarter protein, and about a little bit less than that fat. So it works out really well if you're going to that 1 gram per day. And I know it sounds like a lot, but it's really not if you think of it in terms of calories, because 400 calories every day, that's like eating a candy bar, one of those king size candy bars.
Sugar.
That's a ton of sugar, but you're getting the same amount of calories in a candy bar as you're getting in 100 grams of protein right there.
Yes, I think that's probably where the misconception, where female athletes or younger female athletes might think that they can't eat that much. But when you kind of look at it with visual perspective and think about the math and the numbers a little bit, I think that can help. And I do want to touch on, Coach Neill mentioned it at the beginning, about how it's great for your muscle tissues and tendons and different things. So from a healing perspective, like if you have an injury or something like that, eating your proper nutrients and eating protein can actually help that recovery process in your natural body. And getting those dairies for calcium buildup with bones and different structures like that within your body, all of that can help in the healing process, which can then help in the performance process as well.
And that's a good point, is so many times, especially as male athletes, we think about protein and its ability to build muscle. Well, if I don't get enough protein in, I'm not going to build enough muscle. I'm not going to look awesome, right? Like that's all the guys are thinking. The problem is, as an athlete, you really should be thinking in terms of, how do I recover my body from the toll I've taken during practice, during a workout, during a run, during a swim meet, anything like that. Your body physically breaks down. And your body wants to repair that tissue that's been broken down. Protein is the necessary building block to recover that tissue. Your body rebuilds that tissue with the amino acids. Now, like we talked about last week, carbs fuel that process. But if you fuel the process and don't give it the amino acids to actually build with, you're kind of wasting your time. Now, let's talk about how much we need. Let's talk about timing of protein, because it's really important when you get your protein into your body. The first step's obviously getting enough, but how do you spread that out per day? Because we talked about, well, 100 grams sounds like a whole lot. And if I'm a 200-pound young male athlete, I need 200 grams of protein. That sounds like a whole lot. When you look at how you time protein out through the day, it's not that much, because as an athlete, especially anytime we work out, call it practice, call it a lift, call it a conditioning session, whatever it may be, you want to make sure that you're getting a minimum of 20 grams of protein post-workout. And realistically, you want to get 20 grams within that 2-hour window before you go out there too. So just by getting adequate protein around your workout times, you're getting 40 to 60 grams. Just if you're taking a protein shake post-workout, just if you're eating what you should be eating post-workout to recover with. So that's 60 of that 200 right there. Another thing you should be doing is, at every meal, you should be getting 20 to 40 grams as well. So if we're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we're getting 20 to 40 grams at each of those, now we're getting anywhere from 60 to even 100 grams of protein from our meals. So let's say we're a regular 200-pound male athlete, 180-pound male athlete. We've gotten 40 grams around our workout time. We've gotten 80 grams by eating protein at every meal. So now you're already up to 140 or 120, somewhere in that range. Another thing as an athlete you should be doing, and this is really, really important, is eating before bed every night a high protein source meal or shake. I think shakes are great for this, because not everybody's going to make a sandwich before bed. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches can do this, although it's really high in fat. But your body does a lot of its recovery overnight while you're sleeping. And so if you don't give it fuel, it's not going to be able to fully recover. We tweeted out earlier in the week, but there's a lot of studies that show massive differences in the ability to build muscle, get stronger, and recover just between athletes who take something before bed and don't. So we recommend 20, again, that 20 gram, maybe even all the way up to 40 grams if you're a larger athlete in the 200-pound range before bed. And then again, when you wake up, you want to start that fueling process at the beginning of the day. So now I'm looking at the day, and if I get 20 to 40 when I wake up, 20 to 40 at each meal, 20 to 40 around workout time, and then 20 to 40 at bed, that 200 comes quick.
That's about 180 just right there if you had 40 at each one. So that adds up. And for female athletes, like that's kind of similar too. Because if you're 120 pounds and you take the 20 grams or so before and after workout, that's 40 already. And that you haven't even eaten other meals of the day. So it's actually easier to do than what we think. You just have to kind of be diligent and intentional with what you're doing.
And essentially what you should be doing as an athlete, because I know not everybody's going to get in MyFitnessPal and track all their calories and their macros, but you need to be really conscious of, you know what, when I'm going to lunch, and I'm looking at my plate, do I have a really solid carb source that's a complex carb, and do I have enough protein to make sure that I'm prepared for the day and recovering from what I did maybe in the morning? And if you do that mindset at every meal, if you do that at breakfast, if you do that at lunch, if you do that post-workout, know, hey, I've got to get some protein in my system, and you spread it out like that, you're never going to be in a detriment. You're never going to be lacking what your body needs to fully recover. And while it may not affect you one day, taking that attitude and being consistent with it over time is going to make a huge difference in your athletic career, a huge difference in your ability to compete and to continue to prevent injury and to recover. And if muscle building is a goal of yours, which even ladies, like, you may define it differently, but if you come in and say, oh, I want to have less fat and more muscle, if I want to tone, we call that body composition, right? We call it changing body composition. You're still having to build muscle. You still have to, and to build muscle, your body requires enough protein beyond your baseline needs to build extra. And that's why it's so important that every meal as an athlete, you have that adequate protein level.
Absolutely.
That's all we have for today. If you have any questions beyond what we talked about, feel free to reach out to myself or Coach Katie. We're always welcome to sit down, talk about nutrition, talk about your needs. We'll go over, we can't technically give you out a meal plan, but we can give as much nutrition advice as possible and point you in the right direction. So, go Warriors.
Gains.